Iran fires a new wave of missile attacks on Israel.
Joining us now is professor and political analyst Ric Epps with the very latest. Ric, good morning, and thank you for coming in today.
Good morning. Good morning.
We're just hearing just a few moments ago that the Israeli military is warning residents of the capital of Tehran to evacuate ahead of strikes. This doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon.
No, unfortunately, that seems to be the case, that in fact things are escalating. And it's getting much more complex now because Iran now has, with their advanced missile system, which is called the Hajj-Qassam system, was able to penetrate Israel's air defense system and hit Haifa and also Tel Aviv. And this creates another problem because people don't realize, one, that Iran has over 1,000, it has the largest ballistic missile system in the Middle East, has over 1,000 missiles. Not nuclear, but they have over 1,000 missiles. This creates a huge problem in terms of reprisal. So it's getting messier now that they're also looking at targeting civilians. And Israel said, well, now you target our civilian population, now we're going to go back and target yours. I talked to someone yesterday who's had a family member who was on the road getting out of Tehran, and the bomb went off in a building that was right next to the freeway that was, where people were trying to get out.
Goodness.
So it's definitely getting messier.
You say messier, you say it's more complex. It doesn't, you're not painting a pretty picture here for the next couple of weeks, months. How long are we talking about here that these attacks, this barrage from both sides could go on for? I mean, realistically.
Yeah, 2 weeks, I don't think 2 weeks will be the case. I think there's too many, the peripheral actors like the United States and EU and others entities, whether it be Russia or with a long line with Turkey on this and trying to call for a peaceful settlement or stepping back from this. I just don't see it happening anytime in the next couple of weeks. It's going to take some diplomacy, but I don't think either side is locked in that space right now.
Yeah.
I think both are too busy pushing the button, and there are political interests that are playing at this too, that, on both sides. That as we all know, there's a lot of politics involved in the Middle East, and that drive a lot of this as well.
Let's talk a little bit about that if we can. I know that we heard from Israel that the objective was not what they said, to change the regime. We heard that from multiple people. Having said that, there are a lot of people who are calling for a regime change.
Yeah, even in the United States, they said that there was a notion that they were talking about, Israel was talking about targeting the Ayatollah, and the pushback was no, we're not. They were told apparently by the U.S. government, told Israel not to, let's not do that. That would have been another bigger problem. Because when Iran becomes desperate, and certainly Iran is on the downside here, there's no doubting that. And even with 1,000 ballistic missiles, Israel has nuclear weapons. So therein lies the danger, because if at some point, when does Israel say enough is enough? And then that's when things get really, really ugly. But when you look at this, when you look at the scenario and how it's playing out right now, both sides are dug in. Both sides are not listening to the outside. Both sides are making comments that are suggesting that the other side is justified in the actions they're committing. So this is why we don't see any off-road right now in terms of stopping this from happening. There's just no way to get out of it at this point.
How legitimate is Iran's threat to the U.S. over this conflict? Because that's been the topic of discussion, and several senators over the weekend said, look, the U.S. is staying out of it. This is not our fight. How do you make that statement realistically?
Well, it's not realistic, to be very frank. I mean, they may stay out of it, like we talked about the other day, indirect or directly.
Right.
But again, Trump has made multiple comments on both sides. One, they want peace, but then it's peace. On the other hand, it's like if any U.S. military installations or any thing like that gets targeted, we're coming after you full blast. So when you hear both those statements coming out of both sides of his mouth, it seems like the U.S. is kind of baiting for this to happen. I mean, in some ways, I would argue that Israel and the United States subtly would like, if regime change was going to take place, they want to control the regime change if it's going to happen. There are many people inside of Iran and who would like to see regime change, but the people, not the people in general, are afraid. They're terrified. I mean, on one hand, it's an interesting conundrum to think about wanting freedom from a repressive regime, and at the same time, the consequence of that may cost lives.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up, because there are so many Iranians that I've spoken to inside of Iran. On one hand, you've been a guest on this show for years. We went through the Women Life Freedom movement. We've talked a lot here about the people of Iran being different from their regime and wanting freedom, but at the same time, their country is being attacked now.
Yeah, and this is the same, and the same thing happens both in Israel as well. You have people, who are not happy with Netanyahu, right? And then when they're attacked, they run back to the people who have been their protectors. And so the Israeli people, now Netanyahu has kind of built a base for himself to survive politically, a lot of heat that was coming his way. And then on the Iranian leadership side, they have also been able to fortify with those folks who may want change but are so afraid now. And then this radicalizes both sides. So you end up in this sort of stalemate where both sides now are going to follow the people who dragged them into this simply because of the fact that they feel like they're being attacked and they're the people who can save them.
I wanted to bring back what Shali brought up at the very start of our conversation, which is Israel now warning Netanyahu, warning the people in Tehran to get out.
Yeah.
How imminent is an attack when a warning like that goes out to the folks there, and what exactly does that mean? What can they expect? What is coming?
I don't foresee ground forces at this point. Israel's still dealing with Gaza. In fact, they've escalated in Gaza while this has all been happening, which has been another big issue. Right. But I will say that the missile attacks from Israel are going to increase. I mean, of course, they've already hit Isfahan, they've hit Shiraz. They know that the Natanz nuclear reactor, they have attacked the surface buildings, but they haven't got the infrastructure underneath. And here's the side story to this that I think is really important. When you start blowing up nuclear reactors, there's this thing called radiation. Yeah. And, so you have to be, let's just say you have to be very careful about the extended results and consequences. If you blow up the reactor and you've got a nuclear core that is now exposed, the danger that poses to people in the region. And so, Israel has said, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going after the infrastructure, and again, they have no game in mind to end this, and I don't think they really want it to end at this point. I think Netanyahu wants to have this go on because it serves his interests at this point. And
I think for many people in the meantime, everybody's thinking about the innocent civilians on both sides that are in so much fear right now and are losing their lives.
Well, the humanitarian crises that is going to, I mean, right now we've got about 225 to 250 people who have been killed so far, plus a number who've been injured. This I expect to go up significantly because they start targeting civilians, and of course they're always the ones who suffer in these situations. So it's really tragic.
All right, Ric Epps, we appreciate the insight as always. We'll speak with you again.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.